Good morning. I'm Chris Saslow, the Associate Director for Patient Care Services here at Gulf Coast Veterans Healthcare System. During our last blog, I asked a number of questions to solicit feedback from staff on things that will help us to evaluate what we can do better with both retention and recruitment of quality, satisfied, and happy staff. I'd like to thank the many of you that took the time to view the video, nearly 100 of you, and for those of you that actually provided me with written feedback to give me some ideas as to what we need to start looking at more with scrutiny, as well as paying attention on a greater note to. I'm going to go through some of the summaries of the questions that I've asked, and to let you know what we're doing on some of those areas. What makes you jump out of bed each day to come to work? Resoundingly, the majority of you who responded, both face-to-face as well as in writing, told me that it's your coworkers as well as the veterans that make you happiest in coming to work here at Gulf Coast. The second question was, what makes you hit that snooze button? Several of the things that we've identified, and not surprisingly, are the potential to be pulled to areas that you don't necessarily work in on a regular basis, and holding staff accountable for poor performance or bad behavior. Another issue that was a common theme was the perception of apathy and unprofessional behavior from staff, not only within our own service, but amongst other services as well. I'd like to just touch briefly on the fact that holding staff accountable for their behavior and for their poor performance is something that we have taken very seriously here. And in working with our union partners, we're trying to move through some of those individuals that clearly do not reflect the qualities and the expectations here at Gulf Coast. I ask for your patience as we continue to work through some of those behaviors and some of those challenges, and not to give up in thinking that there is nothing being done to try to change those behaviors. Another thing I'd like to talk briefly about is the perception of unprofessional behavior at times. Whether it is a peer or a colleague in another service, it is important to bring that individual to your supervisor's attention so we can try to take the corrective action necessarily, whether it be face-to-face or through a more formal process. But we should never give up or accept the fact that bad behavior is something that we have to live with. The next item on the questions was, what is your dream job? And I'm happy to say that for the most of you, those that responded both in writing and face-to-face told me that your dream job is where you are right now. And that's really great to hear, because clearly there is a level of satisfaction that we don't always capture. But for those individuals that did respond with seeking other opportunities, several of you identified both leadership and educational roles that sparked your interest and your long-term goals. I encourage you that if you've never taken the opportunity to shadow or mentor one of those individuals that you aspire to look to or to become a part of, I encourage you to speak to your manager and your chief nurses and find out what might be available to you in the way of a mentoring opportunity. The next thing that was brought forward was what makes for a great day here at Gulf Coast. And I'm very proud to say again that individuals, knowing that they have done something positive for our veterans, and to see the outcomes clearly reflected in the performance of the veterans' progression, or the ability to hear the feedback from the veterans on the care that they're receiving. The other piece of what makes for a great day is making sure that you actually feel appreciated for what you do. And there are some individuals that clearly identify that the appreciation comes from both veteran as well as from the leadership. But there are some of you that identify that you feel a little less valued some days more than others because you don't think that others notice the work and quality that you give your work or your veterans. I do want to say that our goal is to have both happy patients and happy staff. And I apologize if we're not doing the best job possible in making you feel valued, appreciated, and an important part of our institution. We will continue to work harder and hopefully be able to share with you some of the ways that we're actually improving that in the next couple of weeks. Additionally, some of the things that make for great days here, and staff actually said that a great day means no falls, no emergencies, happy veterans, and mostly happy staff. I guess I'll take 99% out of 100 if that's what I can get, and work toward that 100%. And the last question, and probably the most challenging one for us, is what bothers you most about your job? Several of the common themes that we heard included salaries, feeling that we are lower than the local community hospitals, and presents itself as a significant frustration to some staff. I will tell you that we worked really hard recently in trying to find ways that retention and recruitment can be improved, and I'm hoping to be able to provide you with some additional news to that in the very near future. Also, that good work is not always reflected in someone's proficiency or performance appraisal. I want to encourage staff to discuss your performance appraisal or your proficiencies with your nurse manager. It is absolutely critical for you to sit down, both at a mid-year as well as at the end of your rating period, to make sure that you have a frank discussion on the things that you have done, things that you've been able to demonstrate with positive outcomes, and to make sure that it's captured effectively in your proficiency. Please don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with satisfactory behavior or satisfactory ratings. That means that you're doing everything that you're supposed to do based upon your functional statement or your position description. But in order for you to reach above that, your proficiency or performance appraisal does have to reflect things that show you going above and beyond, and just how significant those opportunities have been. We're going to come out with some additional education this year and some great sample tools that I hope will help staff recognize how to move forward when it comes to reflecting their performance in their proficiencies, as well as how they can advance on the clinical ladder. So staff frustration, in addition to salaries and retention and the proficiencies, also look at some staff who do not produce and cause others to pick up that slack. As I mentioned before, we really want you to have conversations not only with your peers and let them know some of your frustrations, but if that isn't successful, following the appropriate steps to make sure that you share your concerns with your nurse manager, your chief nurse, and even myself. Our goal is to have us all working to the maximum potential of our license and our capabilities. And if there are those few individuals that I suspect may not be performing to the best of their capabilities, it's our goal to nurture them to make sure that they've got the right tools and understand the expectations of their job. The last thing I want to touch on is some of our outpatient clinics will oftentimes feel as though they are less appreciated based upon their distance from the PENTAD as well as from the general leadership here at Gulf Coast. I want you to know that our goal is to try to make everyone feel as valued as anybody else. And the PENTAD has recently had discussions on ways that we as a leadership can do a better job of being visible as well as being available to meet the needs of you as our staff in the direct care arena. This means that you'll be seeing someone from the PENTAD at least monthly at all the different CVOCs, as well as your direct leadership being visible on a rotating basis across the entire Gulf Coast, from here in Biloxi to Mobile, Alabama, Pensacola, Florida, Eglin, as well as Panama City. All of you are as equally valued as anybody else, and I can't thank you enough for the job that you do here each and every day to make our veterans feel the most special and the most valued that they can be. Have a great day, and I hope your 4th of July holiday and week are as best as it can be and are full of good wishes. Take care.